What's good, YouTube? It's your boy KB with Just Do Boxing, back with another video. So, in shocking fashion and a shocking upset, Magsayo upsets Mr. Gary Russell by majority decision. Let's get into it, man. Mr. Gary Russell is now 31-2, 18 KOs, 33 years old, 5'4 and a half, 64-inch reach. Going up against Magsayo, who's now 24-0, 16 knockouts, 5'6", 68-inch reach, man. And we all know about Gary's ring rust. You know, he's been out of the ring since he fought King Tug and won a unanimous decision against him February 8th of 2020. So that's pretty much 2-year layoff. You know, you already mentioned he had an injury going into the fight. He didn't specify what the injury was, but I guess in the third round we might have found out what that injury was when he seemed to hurt his right shoulder in the fight, where, you know, it's competitive. You know, Magsayo started strong, you know, going to Gary's body. You know, he did a good job at countering Gary. He had some pretty good timing, but, you know, even with Gary hurting his hand, I felt like he did really good work. I felt like Magsayo started to slow down. Initially, he did some good work to Gary's body, but Gary stayed diligent. And, you know, even with the hurt shoulder, he basically was with one arm. And I feel like he boxed this kid beautifully still. And a lot of people might disagree, but I think the judges got it wrong this time. I think the commentary was horrible. It was completely biased. You know, the only thing they were speaking on was Magsayo's work and what he was doing. And they were giving him credit for punches he didn't even land. You know, the crowd would scream every time Magsayo even got a punch blocked. You know, but I understand that with the fans. But the commentary, you know, for them to sit up and talk over Gary's work and, you know, constantly make comments toward what Magsayo, what adjustments he needed to make to win the fight. All he had to do was this. All he had to do was that. It just seemed like Gary had the whole deck stacked up against him, man, and he still fought a hell of a fight. In my honest opinion, and I'm not being biased, I'd never be biased, I honestly feel like Gary Russell, even with fighting most of the fight with one arm, he won 7-5. I scored a 7-5 for Gary. I mean, if you disagree, I have no problem with that. Y'all just get in that comment section, you let me know. That's what it's all about. But in my opinion, I think, you know, Gary had a lot going against him, you know, with the health of his father losing his foot, and then, you know, one of his brothers recently passing, and, you know, him having to train himself and missing weight initially. I mean, you know, he had a lot stacked up against him, and I'm not making excuses. Those are just the facts. But I still believe most of that didn't affect him in the fight. Obviously, maybe the injury had to be maybe the shoulder, because he never specified. So, you know, if it wasn't, then that's even worse, because that was the shoulder plus another injury he probably was dealing with. And I think it's just unfortunate the way they called this fight, and I just don't think the judges got it right this time. And big credit and big salute to Magsayo. He's the fighter, and he came to fight. He showed up. He did very well. He showed a good account of himself, man. And, you know, he dethroned the longest reigning champion in boxing. You know, Gary Russell had his belt for almost 7 years. He's been champion. You know, I think it was 6 years and 10 months to be exact. So, big salute, much credit to Magsayo. You know, he dethroned the longest reigning champion in boxing, you know, and, you know, I guess, you know, the sky's the limit for him, and Gary's back at the drawing board. You know, it's bad enough we already, you know, was only seeing him once a year, and that, you know, even recently it was more than that. So 2 years pretty much. So I think, you know, they need to keep Gary a lot more active. I'm not making excuses for him, and I always say this on his channel: fighter's worst nightmare is father time and inactivity. And, you know, Gary was dealing with a little bit of both and then some. So, you know, see what I'm saying? But I don't think his age or the inactivity affected him as much as one might think. I just truly think, you know, I think the judges maybe liked the pressure style of Magsayo, but I felt like down the stretch, I don't want to say gassed, but he looked a little more tired than what he did obviously earlier in the fight, and as a result, his work rate slowed down tremendously, and Gary Russell continued to use his left hand and make him miss. He made him miss a lot, in my opinion. And I felt like they were just giving him rounds just because of activity. And obviously, you're gonna, throw more punches if he got, both his arms and Gary just got one. But you can't give him credit for just throwing punches. You got to give him credit for landing those punches. And I'm not saying he didn't land any, but if you really were watching the fight down the stretch, Gary made him miss a lot more and used the ring even more well to avoid a lot of his shots. With him being compromised with the hurt shoulder, it just was what it was. He didn't complain. He fought through it. He was checked by the doctors. He said he was good. He was good to go. And he obviously, he was dealing with the injury, but he fought through it. He didn't complain. I think he did a hell of a job. And like I said, I don't like the commentary at all. They continue to talk over Gary's work and, constantly say what Magsayo's doing and what he needed to do to win. It was just weird, and it was very biased in my honest opinion. If you go back and watch it, you'll see exactly what I'm talking about. They almost rained on a great night of boxing, and all in all, the commentary was what it was, but the fight was a great fight from both fighters, man. They fought hard. I think Gary did a hell of a job with the circumstances that was stacked up against him. Again, I don't make excuses. I just use the facts. The facts are he had a lot to overcome, and in my honest opinion, he did it, and he did very well, and I felt like he edged it out by a couple rounds, 7-5. If y'all disagree, that's what this is all about. Feel free to drop your opinion. Y'all tell me what y'all think. If y'all seen this fight, man, y'all tell me who y'all think won. I mean, did the judges get it right? Did Mark Magsayo win, or did Mr. Gary Russell win? Like I said, I'm gonna be as honest as I can be and as non-biased as I can be. I like both fighters. I'm going to continue to watch both fighters and support both, not just Gary Russell. I'm going to support Mark Magsayo. I would love to see him fight again. It'd be interesting to see who they put him in there against next, but I'm even more interested to seeing Gary Russell in the ring more than one time a year. Being that he got this one early, I don't see why there's any reason why we don't see him at least 2 more times this year, so we can see the absolute best version of Gary Russell possible. And I think as supporters of the sport, because I don't like to call myself a fan, as supporters of the sport, I think we deserve that. I think Gary and the Russell family deserve that. We, as spectators, boxing deserves to see a talent like Mr. Gary Russell in the ring more than one time a year. As we know, Sayha on the other hand, he's been very active. He fought at least 3 times since Gary last fought. So that's just giving you an idea of how inactive Gary has been as of late and all the things that he had to overcome, up until this point. And my hat is off to both fighters. Definitely Mark Magsayo for dethroning what was the longest reigning current champion. On to better things for him, but I really tip my hat to Gary Russell for him battling through all the things he had to battle through outside of the ring and inside of the ring as well, injury included. I think he showed a hell of a heart just fighting through the injury and so many other things as well. No different than what most fighters probably go through, but all those things mixed along with the inactivity had to have some type of impact. But again, I don't think it had as much as what one might think, because I truly think Gary Russell is a special talent, and I also think Mark Magsayo is a pretty damn good fighter. He just beat a fighter that I obviously just said is a special fighter, so he's obviously a special fighter as well. But again, my honest opinion, I just felt like Gary Russell pulled this one off. So that's my thoughts on it, man. Y'all get in the comment section, man. Don't forget to subscribe, hit that like button, share these videos, hit that bell icon so y'all can get all the notifications when I drop in the video. I drop content daily, man, so y'all ain't got to worry about that. I'm going to stay on top of that. Y'all let me know if I gave Mark Magsayo and Mr. Gary Russell their just due. So that's what I like to do over here, Just Do Boxing. To the next one, I'm out. Peace.